I'll just put the question. The question is that the motion moved by Senator Back be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Senator Ludlam wish to move a motion to take note of answers today.
Thank you, Deputy President. I'm moving a motion that the Senate take note of the question, or the answer, I should say, that Foreign Affairs Minister Senator Carr chose not to provide to the Chamber earlier this afternoon in response to questions that I put to him about the situation unfolding in London overnight. And my question obviously was, as is the format of this place, was threefold, but effectively it goes to whether the Minister was aware, had taken an interest, had contacted our High Commissioner, or particularly and specifically made representations to the British government, either here, their representatives here in Australia or in London, as to why they appear to have breached international law, threatened the integrity and potentially the staff of Ecuador's embassy in London in their pursuit of Australian citizen Julian Assange, who's obviously been in that embassy since June. And the Minister was, as he always is, on message, completely off topic, but he was at least on message. I think I could just about have read the brief that he read into the Chamber, because I've heard it so many times, I've nearly memorised it. It doesn't matter what question you put to him, you get the same thing back. The reason I ask this is that the actions of the British government, if this turns out to be correct, and there is a lot of rumour and speculation flying around at the moment as to what actually has occurred, but it appears from the statement, certainly from the statement made by the government of Ecuador, that said this morning, "We are deeply shocked by British government threats against the sovereignty of the Ecuadorian Embassy and their suggestion that they may forcibly enter the embassy." So it's been surrounded by units of the Metropolitan Police and goodness knows who else. The British government appears to have threatened to break the door down or potentially even rezone the embassy so that it's no longer diplomatic territory. This puts every embassy in the world at risk, this kind of behaviour. Can you imagine what Minister Carr's response would be, quite rightly, if the Australian government embassy was surrounded by elements of the Afghan National Police in Kabul? Just imagine that for a moment. The idea that diplomatic staff and that territory, and this is hundreds of years of international law, not decades, that you do not interfere with the diplomatic postings and personnel overseas. And that is now being threatened to be unpicked by the actions, or the apparent actions, of the British government in London in pursuit of somebody who hasn't been charged with any offence in any jurisdiction. He's wanted for questioning by Swedish prosecutors who have failed to take the opportunity of 2 years when Mr Assange has been under house arrest to question him, but that's what he's wanted for. An Interpol red notice, an extradition order for questioning on offences in Sweden. And now the British police appear to have entered the building, so the embassy, I understand, is on the 5th floor of a building in Knightsbridge in London, and the British police have surrounded and occupied the ground floor of that building. Minister Carr then, after having, as long as any of us have had, to take stock of the situation, plus the advantage of at least being able to call our High Commissioner in London to work out what exactly is going on, says, "Oh, I haven't been advised. I haven't been advised." You might as well walk in here with a blindfold on. Seek advice. Find out what is occurring, because I think many people would like to know what's going on. I think it would be, and already is, in effect, a massive diplomatic incident. Should the British, in fact, decide to do that, to occupy the embassy or to forcibly enter that premise? Article 22 of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations says that the premises of the mission shall be inviolable. The agents of the receiving state may not enter them except with the consent of the head of the mission. And that is the kind of threat that appears to be posed to the staff of the Ecuadorian Embassy in London at the moment in pursuit of an Australian citizen. This is not a matter that the Australian government can stand back in blissful ignorance for very much longer. This is something that concerns us directly. We're not asking for further consular assistance. Consular assistance is for people who lose their mobile phones or their passports overseas. Consular assistance is for teenagers who are found with small quantities of drugs in Bali and therefore put at risk. Consular assistance is not what is being asked for here. It's not what is sought. It is diplomatic and political assistance. Does the United States government intend to prosecute Julian Assange for espionage, computer hacking offences, or whatever it may be? This unprecedented in nature and scale investigation that was launched nearly 2 years ago now. Does the US government intend to pull the trigger and unleash that prosecution or not? Because that's what this is about. It's what it's always been about. I hope the next time that this issue is raised in the Senate, which will probably be pretty early depending on events that are unfolding right now, the Foreign Minister won't walk in here with a blindfold in and claim that he wasn't advised. It's not good enough.
Thank you, Senator Ludlam. The question is the motion moved by Senator Ludlam be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Are there any ministerial statements? No ministerial statements. Are there any government responses to committee reports? Minister Wong.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. I present 3 government responses to committee reports as listed at item 13 on today's order of business, and in accordance with the usual practice, I seek leave to have that document incorporated into Hansard.
Is leave granted? There being no objection, leave is granted. I table documents providing details of travelling allowance payments made by the Department of the Senate to senators and members during the period 1 July 2011 to 30 June 2012 and travel expenditure for the Department of the Senate during the same period. Are there any documents to be tabled by ministers? None. Are there any reports from committees? Senator Birmingham.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. I present 2 reports of the Joint Standing Committee on Treaties